Greetings, brothers and sisters. Okay, this is going to be a standalone video on the Gratefullness meditation channel, and then I'm going to put this in the Journey series as well. I've been having I had this, well, first let me address this part. Somebody left a comment, I think, saying something like they missed the Tuesday sitting, like they didn't do it, and I think they were saying that they didn't do it on Tuesday. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that it doesn't matter what day you do it on. It's more like a weekly sitting, so that you do the most recent sitting, whenever that is. But if you do it on Friday or the following Monday, even, then you have a whole week to do it, right? If you don't get to it on Tuesday, it doesn't have to be done on Tuesday. I once in a while I'll take a sitting, not once in a while, quite often, on the Gratefullness meditation channel, and I would take some of the there's some sittings, the individual sittings there, but then I realized, I might as well do the Tuesday sitting because that's the most recent one, and I found really good results. So I was very pleased with that. So you don't have to do it on Tuesday, is what I'm saying. It's a weekly sitting, and whenever you take it. In Sahaj Marg, taking a sitting could either mean the preceptor takes the sitting and gives a sitting, or you take the sitting as an abhyasi where you meditate. So it's kind of weird that it means two opposite things. But here I mean sitting for the meditation, that you can sit for the meditation whenever you get the opportunity. So I had this big experience. It turned out to be Lalaji's Mahasamadhi day. It started, and it lasted for 3 days, where I was up at night and I just felt the transmission flowing, for hours. And, really good meditation last night on Friday night. And so there is a person who sent me some videos that came out, not on the normal Sahaj Marg channel, and I'll show you the videos a little bit in the video. And so this person, I believe, has heard about Sahaj Marg through me, and now people are, this isn't the first time this has happened, but like people are sending me things now, or bringing things to my attention. But there were 3 videos, and the person sent me 1 video, but there were 3 videos put up by this person, who's obviously an abhyasi, from 1996 in Molina, Georgia. And Charji gave a talk. I was there at this gathering. I heard the talk. And I remembered the talk, kind of. I remembered some parts of it. And, I remembered, being there for it. It was the first gathering I had after I was made a preceptor. So I went to India in 1995, and then the next following summer, Charji came to Molina. I was living in New Mexico. So I'd moved from Massachusetts to New Mexico. I was made a preceptor. And, I was in a very kind of odd time, right? Like I'd just gotten back maybe 6 months earlier, and it was just kind of adjusting to life in New Mexico, and then this gathering happened. And my mom would meet Charji, and there was video. Somebody has a video of this somewhere. Somebody took a video of it, but I introduced my mom to Charji at that gathering, and then I would get married the following 1997. I think the next gathering, I ended up being married. So this was, a lot of things were going to happen in a short period of time. Actually, the following gathering, I was, it was right before I would get married, and then the following gathering after that, I'd be married. So this was, a lot of stuff was going on. A lot of things were happening at this period of time, right? And Charji would come every year, so a whole year's worth of stuff would happen, and sometimes it would be like 14 months or whatever. So, but he was, I remembered some of this gathering, and I'm watching it, and I liked the speech. It was good to hear a speech. He was in kind of a good mood. He was joking around. But I didn't feel the energy like I did at the time. I was, and then there was a number of videos. There's 2 other videos where there was caught like Charji walking around the ashram. And I was recognizing people. And I'm like, oh my God, those people look so young. Like some of those people I didn't know at the time. There was a guy who was, Mr. M. He gets married at this gathering. Like he's, now he's divorced and with another abhyasi, like from Europe. And he was somebody, was influential on this YouTube channel. He watched the videos, but then I found out he sort of was in my ex's camp, right, or whatever. All that stuff. Like these things are. But I was seeing these people, some of them I recognized, and and I was there at some of these things. I don't really remember them, right? And I felt really disconnected from it. Kind of bummed, like just the end of an era. I've been feeling that a lot. A lot of these people have quit, or they're just, they're horrible people. Like a lot of it was just a mess, right? And I just didn't feel the energy that I'd felt at that gathering. I remember it being an epic gathering. I just returned from India, and I was now a preceptor. It was just, I remember it being just, I don't want to say special, but just, it was a big thing. Like a lot of things happened after that gathering, which I attribute to that gathering. It was the third time I saw Chargy in America. And so, it was a big thing. And at the time, my volunteer job was I made the coffee. I would get up early and make the coffee for everybody. I put an extra packet in the coffee so it was stronger. And a lot of people liked the coffee better because of that. So people were, praising my coffee making abilities. This is back when I drank coffee. I later found out that, I struggled with it because it was just too acidic for me. It negatively affected my digestion, right? I eventually converted to tea, and now, of course, I don't drink anything. But then something happened, right? So let me just go. I'll switch over to a video here. Okay, so here's the talk he gave. It's a 25-minute talk, 26-minute talk. This guy, PG Photography, he must have taken this video years ago. He just put it up 3 weeks ago. It's got 1,000 views almost. It's a good talk by Chargy. Like I said, I remember the talk. And then here Chargy is, there's a little railway, sort of a deck. The building isn't very nice. It was built by these guys. One of these guys builds a lot of hotels, and they built it on the cheap. Like they build it's kind of like, it's a wood frame building, but it's kind of like a building you would get one of those prefab houses they deliver to your place. It's not very nice. And he has a little cottage, a little master's quarters, and there's a meditation room next to it. And then over here on the right, if you keep on walking, there was a dining room area and a kitchen. And then above it was all these dorm rooms and the caretaker's cottage, caretaker's rooms. And Chargy would come out on this deck, and on the other side of the deck there was a little grassy area with some turf. And Chargy would come out, and people would be standing there, and he'd give little talks, or he'd pass out candy to kids, or something like that, right? And so I saw these things, and there's another video. I'll show you a similar thing where he's on this deck area. The other video, the person puts a bunch of music behind it. It's really off-putting. I just can't stand the music. Like there's music, and it doesn't go. Music is always bad with these things, but it's particularly bad. And I was just kind of feeling bummed by it. And I started looking at this thing. There I am, right? And so what happened was, there's the door into the cottage where you could go to see Master Chargy. People would go into this room, and he had a door, which it was a door where there was it was a half a door, like they have in Mr. Ed, where you can have the bottom of the half door closed, and people would sit there. There's a room that was probably a pretty big room, but like a 20 foot by 16 or 20 feet by 20 feet room, where people would meditate when Chargy wasn't there. People would come there in the ashram. When he was there, they'd rent a big tent. But people would, want to see him, and they'd come over, and if you were security, you'd check to see if, he was seeing people, and, if they could make an appointment, or, sometimes they'd let people in. But otherwise, we were there to keep people out. And two of my friends were running security, and they asked me to do a couple of shifts. So I said I would. So I was sitting there, and I didn't remember this at all. Like I forgot about it completely. And usually I'm on the outskirts, right? Usually I'm not, I wouldn't be where video was taken. Like if Chargy was talking, I'd be back on the outskirts, I was tall. I could see over people, most people. And so I didn't even think about there'd be video of me. And then I was like, oh my God, I didn't even recognize myself at first. But anyways, it just seeing myself there for some reason made me feel more connected to it. Still didn't feel the energy like I did at the time. It's just more of a memory now. But, and I was seeing all these people and I was looking at the people in the video, and a lot of them were, they were so much older. So much younger than I remember. Some of the people I didn't even know at the time. Like I'd only been doing the practice since 1993, so for 3 years. And so, a lot of these people I didn't even know really, or, recognize them. But now I do. And, seeing them all there, and a lot of them are old, a lot of them have quit, a lot of them are dead. And so then I went back to this video, right? Because this is the one with the music in it. And I realized I was in this one too. So I was there a couple of times. I don't really have much of a memory of it. Like after seeing myself there, I could piece together some of the memory. But, like I remember introducing my mom to Chargy. I remember some other things about it, right? So also with this thing, Kamlesh gave a talk, and he was horrible. Just the worst public speaker. I remember him being bad, but I didn't remember him being this bad. You clearly see Chargy was there while Kamlesh was giving the talk, so he wanted Kamlesh to give a talk, but he was horrible at it. Like he just didn't make any sense. He got confused, and just a really bad talk. Here's my brother, who I think he's rocking a mustache, and he's driving Chargy in the golf cart, right? Chargy coming back and forth from Satsang. He's rocking a mustache, and he's got a ponytail. And so that was the first time my brother was caretaker when Chargy came back to America. Like my brother and I both went to India. I moved to New Mexico as a preceptor, and he became a caretaker of the ashram. And so it was, kind of an epic gathering in a lot of ways, and, a lot of things, like I said, there was a lot of movement around that time. Okay, so here's Kamlesh looking really like a villain, right? So this is the area where Master's Cottage was. This was, the meditation hall was over here, so everyone's walking from the meditation tent. Chargy was driven back. I guess I took Chargy back one time in the golf cart because my brother had to do something else. But my brother built these nice steps in this nice pathway, and there's a playground over here that he created. And he parked the golf cart in front of the road. There's a road going up here to the tent where the meditation was. And Chargy was then forced to walk up here. And Chargy didn't walk that well. He had some, leg pain issues. And my brother said, Chargy said, oh, they parked the golf cart here, so I would have to walk up and see their work, right? Like my brother got totally busted because, Chargy saw everything. But Kamlesh was, over here by the master's quarters. And he just looks really nefarious here. I know this guy here. He has since quit. He was in the Alabama Center that was on the coast by the ocean, by the Gulf Coast. Mobile, Alabama. And I forget, it's, that big city there. It's college town. A lot of people who were, they were Abhyasis with Clark Powell. They just had released Clark's book, who was there in that region, in that part of the country. And that most of them have quit. It's just, a little bit of like a lot of these people I'm seeing here. I don't know if they're dead, or the people I recognize, or they're no longer practicing, or, there's something negative there. Just, it's kind of not a fun trip down memory lane. And so there's Clark Powell, the guy who had written the book, eating some Pringles. And, I knew Clark. And, Chargy's here at the airport. He's going to fly out to Hartford, Connecticut, which was, my primary airport growing up. And the first 2 trips I came to see him in 1994-95, I flew out of Bradley Airport, where he's going here. And then I saw him get on the plane, and, just made me feel kind of like, this wasn't certainly his last trip to America. And he went other places, right? He continued to stay in America. But, it was like a little bit sad watching him, walk through the gate there. There's a guy named Guy Jaris. He's from France. Watching him walk through there and disappear. Like that was the end of the gathering, right? Kind of a bummer. For me a little bit. Let me switch over to a voiceover. So, it was just an end of an era. And, like I said, I remember how I felt leaving that gathering, but I can't feel it. Like I can't recreate the feeling. Like I have the memory of the whole, being around him and just what it was like and how great it was to be at a gathering. And, oftentimes I would get sick ahead of time and I would struggle with, I don't think I did at this particular gathering. But you go through emotional issues and you'd be getting cleaned out. Things would happen, it was whatever it was, right? There would be some kind of issues, right, that you would go through. And at the end of the gathering, it was just bliss. And, these gatherings were so important to my spiritual evolution and developing as a person. And each one of them, came with epic movements in my life, right? Where I had 29 years of not anything really big happening, right? Nothing really important happening, just sort of, going through the motions. Really not many big memorable events. Things, of course, when I was a kid, and, whatever it might be, a few things here or there. Falling out of the zip line, getting a concussion, and, getting mono or whatever, things like that, right? But mostly really just nothing really that big. And then I saw Chargy in 1994. I started in 1993, and that was epic. And then, each year things would happen and there'd be some, part of my spiritual growth. And, these events, things would just open up. And, I'd been feeling stuck so long. And then I wasn't feeling stuck at all. Like things were rushing forward and just, it was on like a much more rapid course. And just looking forward to that time. It was like these gatherings. I'd see all these people who did the system. I'm not a group person and I'm not, I'm not somebody who does well in groups, but, I'd see these people who shared the passion and they valued the system like I did. And we just shared something and there would be these just moments of communion with God and, these things I talked about earlier in these other voiceover that I'm going to put up on my regular video, the ones that preceded this, the thing in the Journey series. Those voiceovers will be over my next video that come out. Today's Saturday, August 17th. That video is going to come out on the 19th, and it's got a bunch of stuff about God, Jesus, and things like that. And I talk about Sahaj Marg to some extent, and just what I felt in terms of the energy and the transformation. Of course, I thought that Kamlesh would just continue on, and he was a little bit younger. Plus, he had two houses. He had a house in New York, and property, and his family was here. And so I thought there'd be these gatherings at the Melina Ashram. Of course, they were trying to sell it, but then they chose not to. And the same things would happen again. Of course, with all the things that happened with the divorce and me being ostracized. But Kamlesh just shit the bed and sucked, and he wasn't he didn't rise up to it. And the gatherings suck that he puts on compared to what we're used to experience. And so, that I'm getting that a lot where I'm realizing the end of the era, right? It's just, Chargy's been dead now for 10 years and, he's been erased from the mission. His books have gone and, they're just, and even the books that exist, people aren't reading them and, people are struggling. I know that the last conversation that I had with that guy, Lee, and he was saying that, he talked to this preceptor, Indian preceptor. He said a lot of people are still meditating on Chargy's form and they're not, obviously transitioning very well to Daji because, it is what it is. But, it's a bummer. Like, I don't feel like really sad or bummed, but I don't feel good. Like, I don't feel happy about it. And like I said, it was nice seeing these things in terms of a memory, but the energy isn't there. Like the energy that I felt and just all of it, right? And, the energy in his talks and his books probably is not, it's being sort of, minimized or something. Like Chargy's being left out of the Sahaj Marg history now with this heartfulness stuff. It'll be hard to reclaim it because, people who knew him, I'm one of the younger people. I was always one of the younger Abhyasis there, and I was in my 30s. I was 32 in those, in the video clip, right? I was in my early 30s, but still, I was in my 30s. And, there weren't very many Abhyasis in their 20s. Most of those people have quit. And, it's just a dying generation of people, at least here in America. and to some extent India. And, these people will remember him, but he's being, excised out. And, all of that, right? And so, like, when looking at the gathering, this was the other thing, and seeing all these people, like one of the people in front of me, there's a couple people there, a bunch of people I saw, but they were standing near me. One of them was my friend who did the security, and, we've had a falling out. We haven't really talked in years. I mean, before the stuff that happened with my ex. And then this other person was someone I had some, did some shady stuff, right? And seeing all these people and just the way it all went down, and, like it just seems pointless, right? Like, I would have expected better outcomes. I would have expected people to be better. I would have expected to be more growth. Like the American mission is dead. And, whatever is left, it's all Indians, right? There's very few American people left. The boomer hippies are dying out. And, it's all people. I mean, it's going to be a lot of dodgy people who are, don't really know what it was like before. And the Lena Ashram has either been sold or it's closed down. I think it's been closed down. But they didn't use it when Kamlesh came. They had a gathering in Atlanta itself. They rented a crappy building, and he did his Brighter Mind scam. And so, it's all been lost, right? And, it seems like a lot of it, I mean, certainly I benefited, and I'm grateful for my personal benefit. But, I feel bad for Chargy. Like, his legacy is, he did all this work, and, like, it's just not a lot of results, right? And, sometimes the results unfold over time. But there's been a complete failure, with Dodgy being the biggest failure. And then all the other people that were around him, and just the way that they failed and the way the thing has failed. I mean, it's just, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow. Like, just a real bummer for me. I would have never expected, like, it to be anything like this. Like, maybe just keep on going the way it was, or, there'd be a little bit of a transformation when there was a new master of the system. But I never would have thought the thing would have fallen apart. Like, it just, all of it. Like, I think the majority of these people have quit, or they've lost their enthusiasm. Of course, like, I have no idea. I'm not in contact with them. But, just a real mess. On a positive note, it's raining a lot. Like, it's been raining a ton this summer. And it rained at Chargy's birthday a lot. I mean, it was like rain like for days. And so, it's raining now. So, like, it's kind of nice out, but it's just, starting to rain. And so, that's something, right? Anyways, let me wrap this thing up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalaughs. And the Ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.